Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. My name is Chris and thank you so much for joining me today. As you can see here, we are still getting organized in the shop by reinvigorating our new French cleat wall. And yes, I'm going to feature some Rockler products that I think should always be at arm's reach. That being said, there may be some things in here you recognize, but there may not. So join us and let's see how we get this done. You want to see how we did it, guys? Stick around. Let's go. I want to first start off by saying thank you to Rockler. Everything I feature in this video will be linked down below, but it is overdue for us to show them the respect they deserve around here by giving them their own space on our French cleat wall. If you are a first-time viewer, welcome aboard. Thank you for being here. And if you are a returning viewer, you know I appreciate you so much as well. And let's get started. All right, the first thing we're gonna make is a bracket that's gonna hold the bench cookie and painter's triangle setup that Rockler offers. As you can see here, I'm just kind of measuring everything out, using these clamps to put it in place, and we're gonna go ahead and screw it in with some panhead screws, giving us a nice strong hold. I used glue and CA glue to fashion those together. However, I did come back with some wood screws to reinforce that joint. Now it's time to make a rack for these little clamps. These little clamps are with a clampet system that Rockler offers, which is perfect for joining pieces at 90 degrees, say if you're making cabinets. So I put together this little box frame, which is going to be the resting point for these clamps. I'm installing it with glue and brads. I turned the piece over, installed a 45-degree angle piece with some glue and some brad nails as well, and realized I installed that first piece on wrong. I installed it the wrong way. The clamps would not fit. So I got some brad nails to contend with. I'm going to take an angle grinder and chop them off. However, you could use a pair of pliers or whatever you have handy. I'm going to sand off the glue and go back to the drawing board. The only reason I'm leaving this in here, guys, is because just to remind you, stay vigilant, pay attention to what you're doing, and you won't make mistakes like I did. Now you can see here I've got another spacer block on either side of the piece you just saw me install, and those pieces are going to be there to keep those clamps in line when you have them stored. Alright guys, I tried something a little different here. I want to know your thoughts in the comments about this. Every hand chamfer I put on this piece, I then colored in with a blue Sharpie. It gave it kind of a pop art feel, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. So if I get a good response, if you guys like it, I might do it to the entire Rockler wall. We'll see. Let me know what you think. So off camera, I made this bracket that's holding these 90-degree angle brackets that coincide with those clamps, but there's a space there that's underutilized. So we're gonna go to the table saw and we're gonna cut a dado in a piece that's gonna hold a thin rip table saw jig. Making multiple passes using those stop blocks on this crosscut sled. Again, you've seen me do this before. This is how I make dados in my shop, be it the fact that I don't have a dado blade, and I got a pretty snug fit. So then I installed the top part and I put a small dado in there to keep this piece from falling when it's installed. After I installed the bottom rest, I'm gonna go ahead and take it to the crosscut sled and trim it to size. Now I'm taking a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, which is going to be trimmed to size to fit the back of this piece. That way when I install the jig, it stops right in place. I simply clamp it to the existing bracket, drive it home with some screws, and it's good to go. I made this rabbet the same way I make those dados on the crosscut sled. I'm installing it right here for something that is a rather cool tool that you'll see in the final installation. So in my previous shop setup, I basically stored glue brushes in a coffee mug. However, I think at this point I can do better than that. So I'm taking these 3/4 inch pieces of ply and I'm rounding them over just slightly on the disc sander. I make a small cleat in which they can be installed, and I install them about a 1/2 inch apart, giving me just enough room for those glue brushes to fit. Now I'm going to show you at the very end of the video how every piece gets installed all at once, but at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a groove in a piece of plywood, simply attach another piece of 1/4 inch ply in there with some CA glue, again make a French cleat back on the back, and we're good to go for some clamp storage. And yes, well, speaking of clamps, I have some of these long 48-inch aluminum bar clamps that I'm going to make a bracket for. I'm kind of following my nose at this point. I'm making little pieces. I'm kind of rounding them over on the disc sander. As I bring them back to the 3/4 inch piece, as you can see here, it kind of looks like a little coffin, if you ask me. But as I bring it back to the piece here, you're going to see that I'm going to install them in a bit of an angle. So this angle here represents a piece of the clamp that is then going to be nestled in there, as you can see. And when it's all said and done, my goal is that these are nestled in there tight and they will not fall out whatsoever. I just go through the process using CA glue, installing these, taking my time, lining them up just right. And it looks like it's going pretty well so far, except they're a little bit proud. Now I did that on purpose, so I trimmed them off here at the table saw. I trim off one edge and the other. And at this point, it looks like, well, I'm making some marks to cut out a dado. The dado is going to need to be there because the big aluminum bar clamp has to have somewhere to go. So I'm setting up the height of my saw blade just right. As you can see here, I'm just going to nibble material away over and over again until I get the desired result that I want. Now, I've said this before, but it bears repeating. There are 3 guarantees in life, not 2. Death, taxes, and mistakes in woodworking, and you are witnessing another one. Check that out. The clamp is proud of the surface. I trimmed off too much at the table saw, so I have to install a filler piece because the clamp cannot do that. It will not rest up against the wall if it's proud of the surface, and now it's good to go, and now it's time to install the cleat on the back. So I'm just going to glue and brad it, and yeah, it doesn't fit. So I got to take a countersink, go ahead and screw it in place. And that's why you have these different kind of options, you know, in case you want to try one, it doesn't work, try another. You'll find your way, just follow your nose. So when building this bracket, I got a little overzealous and thought about the bracket system first, more so than how it would attach to the wall. And in doing so, I have to kind of build the French cleat in kind of a backwards way. I have to attach a separate piece vertically to that 45-degree angle piece, which should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and countersink some holes here, screw it in place, lots of glue, should be a super strong hold, no worries. But anyway, think about these things before you go about them. And in this case, I got ahead of myself, but I was able to make it work. And sometimes those are the coolest moments in woodworking, when you realize, oh, what a dummy I was, but it's going to work because you kind of got to think around it, and it did. So, and in doing so, I'm going to attach a couple of screws, and I'm going to attach this circle cutting jig here. This is a really cool thing. Haven't used it yet, been wanting to make a round table, and it's going to rest right here underneath these clamps. As you see here, they fit right in there. I'll give you a close-up view of how this works. Check that out. Really happy with how this one turned out. With the clamps on the wall, it is time to install this thing in its entirety. We've got everything laid out, ready to go, and we're going to start installing these bench cookies right now. Of course, I got a total of 8 right there with the painter's triangle attachments. We got 4 more down below, along with some silicone sanding molds that are great for getting into tight spaces. Behind it is going to be a glue tray and a glue spreader, and this is probably one of my favorite accessories. It's a cabinet maker's or carpenter's pencil with lead that is 2 millimeters thick. This thing is fantastic, and I've been using it a lot around the shop lately. Now moving on to the clamp storage. As you can see here, 4 clamps nestled into each side, giving me a storage of 8 clamps total. Bandy clamps rest on this piece as well. And then this Frankenstein style of piece, I like this thing. This is pretty cool. It holds the 90-degree angle clamp and system clamps with a little lip so they don't fall out. Again, the thin rip table saw jig fits right there thusly, and the coolest tool of all is a adjustable square from 90 to 45 degrees. It finds its home there. Sometimes it's the little things in life that make you smile, and this glue brush holder really does. It's pretty cool. Now, they also sent me a cross lap jig. Don't have a dado stack yet, but I will, and you'll see that in future videos. Now these are awesome. Imagine a piece underneath this at 90 degrees. Instead of marking a mark with a pencil or a chalk line, this virtual line is made by an elastic band stretched across the surface with alligator clamps. When you're done nailing it in place, you just simply put it back. That is a cool feature. And there you have it. This is what I'm calling the Rockler wall, and I definitely appreciate you guys joining us for this build. What? What's that? You got a brush? Yeah. It's not a toothbrush. Oh no, it's not a toothbrush. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us for this video. We definitely want to thank Rockler as well. They have been so gracious to us over the past few months that we've absolutely had to show them the respect they deserve by putting them up on our new French cleat wall. Guys, thank you so much again. I definitely appreciate your viewership. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to have a link right there. A few more videos over there as well. And if you want to support us on Patreon, I'm going to have a link down below. And of course, again, as always, no pressure. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, say goodbye. Let's go. We'll see you next time, guys. See you later.